The most dangerous kind of tiredness isn't the one you can sleep off. It's a quiet, invisible draining of the inner self known as emotional exhaustion. Because we live in a culture that rewards constant resilience, we've become experts at hiding our fatigue, not just from others, but from ourselves. We carry on running businesses, maintaining relationships, and smiling at parties, completely unaware that our emotional reservoir is entirely dry. The first sign often shows up as a sudden, intense craving for absolute passivity. You might find yourself sitting in your parked car for 20 minutes after arriving home, staring blankly at the dashboard, unable to find the energy to open the door. Or perhaps you spend your evenings scrolling through trivial videos you don't even care about. This isn't laziness, nor is it a sudden lack of discipline. It is a desperate, unconscious boundary drawn by a mind that has spent too many months making heavy decisions, absorbing other people's stress, and managing complex crises. When your brain realizes it cannot ask you to stop, it forces a state of local anesthesia just to keep you still. Second, you notice a sharp drop in your capacity for micro-frustrations. In your normal state, a dropped fork, a slow internet connection, or a minor misunderstanding with a partner is a brief inconvenience. But when you are emotionally depleted, these tiny friction points feel like targeted catastrophes. You might find yourself on the verge of tears because a grocery item is out of stock, or experiencing a flash of disproportionate rage over a typo. This happens because your emotional shock absorbers have completely worn down. There is no buffer zone left between an external event and your raw internal nervous system. Another telltale sign is the sudden emergence of hyperindependence. When we are running out of emotional resources, the prospect of asking for help, explaining our needs, or coordinating with another human being feels overwhelmingly expensive. It seems far less exhausting to simply say, "I'll just do it myself." We begin to push people away under the guise of efficiency. But this isn't a sign of strength, it's a classic defense mechanism. We isolate ourselves because we are terrified that if we let anyone close enough to support us, we might accidentally fall apart. Finally, emotionally exhausted people suffer from a strange phenomenon, a complete loss of the future tense. When you ask them what they are looking forward to, or where they see themselves next year, they hit a blank wall. They have no grand ambitions or exciting plans, not because they are uninspired, but because planning requires hope, and hope requires emotional energy. When you are drowning in the demands of the present moment, looking at the horizon feels like looking at more work. Recognizing these signs isn't a symptom of failure. It's the first step toward recovery. The solution isn't a radical life overhaul or a temporary vacation, but a fundamental shift in how we treat our internal resources. It requires us to gently admit that we have reached our limit, to stop defending our constant availability, and to realize that saying no to the world is sometimes the only way to say yes to ourselves.